Hello folks, this is video number 50 and the title is The Science Fair. The Science Fair. I've always felt fortunate to have attended through ninth grade Benton Township High School. It's located in downtown Fleetville. We had about 200 kids in that school. We had grades 1 through 12. Sometimes the graduating class would only be 2 or maybe 6 or 8 students. I was in the largest class to attend Benton Township. We had 22 kids in my class, 11 boys and 11 girls. That worked out great for square dance class. After my ninth grade, 1964, we consolidated with Dalton, Factoryville, and Nicholson and attended Lackawanna Trail High School located on Tunnel Hill between Nicholson and Factoryville. The Benton Beavers, with their burgundy and gold uniforms, became Trail Lions in red, white, and black. Although I have fond memories of participating in school plays, etc., I had the lead in 6th grade. The most memorable event occurred in 8th grade. The school had our one and only science fair. My dad had talked about having a couple of beehives when he was a kid. This was some time before the science fair came about. I thought bees were very interesting, so I got some books and the good old Encyclopedia Britannica off the shelf and read and learned about bees. Well, I wanted to enter the science fair, so I decided my entry would be about the types of bees in a hive and their function. I used to eat shredded wheat for breakfast sometimes. They only came in one size back then. One biscuit would fit in a cereal bowl. They came layered in a box. I think there were 3 biscuits per layer, and they were divided by little white cardboards. I figured that those white cardboards would be good to use for my drawings of the different bees, 1 bee per cardboard. I set out with my plan. I drew and colored the bees and labeled all their parts and explained the functions of the bees. I thumbtacked the drawings to a board and fixed it so it stood up at an angle. That was my entry. The big day came to set up our entries in our little gymnasium. About 50 kids entered the fair. The reason I called it a small gym is because it was missing something. Our team did play other schools in there. The normal court had a lane around the outside to stand in when initiating a new play. We didn't have that lane. We had to lean up against the wall. The rest of the court was correct. The room just wasn't big enough. There were some pretty cool entries in the fair. Most memorable to me were the 4-foot-high visible man and woman. There was also a visible eyeball. It was about the size of a basketball. There were other really neat displays with lights and bells and whistles too. My friend Martin was set up next to me. He had made a battery using a small aquarium filled with salt water. Now that was really cool. When looking at all these things and looking over at my little hokey drawings stacked to a board, I guess I felt a bit unworthy, for lack of a better word. The whole week was dedicated to the science fair. On Monday, we brought in our stuff and spent Monday and Tuesday setting up and arranging locations so that people could walk through and look at the displays. I may not have the schedule exactly right. Keep in mind, this was the 62-63 school year. I was in 8th grade. I think on Wednesday, the rest of the students had an opportunity to visit the fair and ask questions, etc. Some of the displays required the exhibitor to interact a bit too. Sometime between then and Friday night, it was open to the public for a time, and there was a time frame when it was closed to everyone but the judges. There were 3 science teachers from other schools who came in to judge the displays. One was from Keystone College. That ensured a non-biased outcome. Friday was award night. Friday night came. I felt as unworthy as you can imagine. My little bee pictures weren't worth much. My mom and dad tried to talk me into going, but I persisted on wanting to stay home, and they abided by that. I dreaded going to school Monday morning. Everyone reported to homeroom. I sat in the front corner by the door. Mr. Fenwick came in and we quieted down. He walked over to his desk, looked up at me, and said, "Mr. Barr." Oh boy, I'm in trouble for something. Having Mr. Fenwick address you by Mr. or Miss was not a good sign. We had Mr. Fenwick for English in 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. I really respected the man, so I gave the respectful response. "Yes, sir." He asked, "Why were you not at the awards ceremony on Friday night?" Now he's asking me this in front of the whole class. When you attend a small school and you go through 9 grades together, you become more like brothers and sisters than just classmates. But there I was, having to give an explanation. I was trapped, so I did. I explained how I felt about the little drawings compared to the visible man, etc. He then had me get up in front of the class. My friend Rick will be surprised at this, but I hated getting up in front of the class. I almost failed English literature in my junior year because I refused to get in front of the class and recite. Mr. Fenwick didn't say anything. He went to his desk and took a little powder blue cube-shaped box out of one of his drawers. As he walked up to me, he began to address not just me, but the whole class. He stated that the judges were not looking for someone who could go to the store and buy a model and put it together. Anyone could do that. The judges were looking for creativity, talent, mastery of the subject, and that it was presented in such a way that the public could easily understand it. Then he opened the box and handed it to me. Inside the box was a gold medal with the inscription, "First Prize, Senior Division, Benton Township Science Fair, 1963. It turned out that Martin's Saltwater Battery came in second. Us 8th graders learned a lot that morning. For me, a little humility goes a long way, but don't bury yourself in it. Looking back as I write, I was a poor sport too. It was a competition. I should have been there to congratulate the winners, even if it wasn't me. My self-defeated attitude put a real damper on the ceremony by not being there to accept the award. That was a big lesson for me. The science fair was a memorable experience for me. I learned a lot. Perhaps it'll help someone else learn similar lessons. So as always, everyone, I wish you all the best. Thank you.